Praise the Lord. This morning we shall open our Bible to Isaiah chapter 5, verse 13. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 13. It is a Bible passage that is repeated in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Both of them say the same thing. Isaiah chapter 5, 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. My people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge. This morning we shall be looking and try to bring some understanding into a significant event that occurred during the week, specifically on Tuesday, 18th of March 2025, when the President of Nigeria announced state of emergency in Rivers State, and he suspended the governor, a democratically elected governor, and suspended the State House of Assembly, both of them from office for 6 months, on a purported charge of crisis in Rivers State. Now, a lot of people have commented about what the president did, and the consensus of opinion, drawing upon the authority of the Constitution, is that the action of the president is illegal. It is an abuse of power. But we need to go deeper into what happened and examine this against the background of the history of Nigeria. There was a state of emergency that was done by Goodluck Jonathan in 2013, and of course that was in Borno, in Yobe, as well as in Adamawa. And the then President Goodluck Jonathan announced that state of emergency to deal with the problem of insurgency. He did not remove the governor. He did not remove the legislators, the State House of Assembly. They remained in office. All the democratic institutions remained in office, while the president declared emergency against insurgency. There was another one that was done by President Obasanjo in Plateau as well as in Ekiti State. And there is a court ruling that declared Obasanjo's action illegal, that he had no right to remove a democratically elected governor from office. There is a process for removing the governor. A state of emergency is not part of that process. So we want to look at the first time the issue of state of emergency occurred in Nigeria, so that we can begin to look at where is this coming from and what is the purpose. Christians need this knowledge, and Christians need this awareness, because the threatened group, the target of everything that is going on in Nigeria today, is primarily the church. And if Christians do not see the danger that is coming towards them, they will not take the right measures to protect, to defend themselves, and to pray aright. Certain faulty foundations were put into Nigeria when it was established as a country in 1914, when there was the amalgamation in 1914, and then when it was given independence in 1960. There are certain things that were done that the church was not aware of. The church was not awake to sense danger until the danger came. One major area in which the church has a lot of problem is in the loss of moral authority. The church itself has an internal crisis. And the crisis is that it has lost moral authority because of sinfulness, acts of unrighteousness, compromised leadership, the teaching of wrong doctrines. The authority, the moral authority of the church has been negatively impacted. And when a church loses moral authority, it cannot exercise spiritual authority. So the church has not been able to deal decisively with certain critical issues in Nigeria. And those issues are getting worse. We're going to look at Nigeria at independence. Because after receiving independence in 1st October 1960, the parliament started sitting. It is interesting, it's a historical fact, but it is an interesting one, that the first act that the parliament passed in 1961, the Nigerian parliament, immediately after independence in October 1960, the first act was Emergency Act. And that Emergency Act was based on instrument number 1652 of 1960 that was issued by the Queen in Council and published in England and in Nigeria. Remember, after independence, Nigeria did not have a president. What it had was a governor general. Nigeria only became a republic in 1963. That was when Zik effectively became the president. As of 1960 to 1963, he was governor general. And instructions were still coming from Britain. Now, the first act, the first law that the Nigeria Parliament made in 1961 after independence was Emergency Act. Now, looking back, that was a curious and a strange way to celebrate the independence of a country. Why will a new country concentrate on passing a law that will authorize state of emergency? Was anybody anticipating trouble? Or was anybody planning for trouble? Now, historically, and with the benefit of hindsight, it is clear that the first state of emergency was contrived to cause trouble for Nigeria. Problem that till today, Nigeria has not been able to resolve 64 years after independence. One will have thought that a country that just received independence will pass a law, its first law will be geared at development, or at education, or at the unity of the people, or at the health care for the people. Something that will indicate a drive towards unity or a drive towards development. But in the case of Nigeria, the first act of parliament was Emergency Act in 1961. By 1962, by 1962, the state of emergency in Nigeria was announced in Western region, just like what Tinubu did in Rivers. And when the state of emergency was announced in the Southwest, crisis followed immediately. There was a revolt in 1965 over rigged election, and there was that crisis called Wetie in Yoruba land. Wetie is Yoruba word for soak it with liquid, and the liquid that was being referred to was petrol. They were burning houses, burning cars, burning human beings. It was a terrible time of crisis in the Southwest. And that led to the coup of 1966, January 1966 coup, led by Major Kaduna Nziogu and 4 other majors. And that led to a counter coup in July 1966, and the pogrom in the north against the Igbo people. And that led to the Civil War in 1967, which lasted for 3 years till 1970. And that led to the unitary system of government that has bedeviled Nigeria and hindered the country from developing. A unitary system that concentrates all the power and the resources in the federal government. Now today, Nigerians are groaning under the yoke of the unitary system, and they are calling for return to true federalism. And the powers that be refuse. And that led to the 1999, before that, it led to the military reign. From 1966, there was a break in 1979 to 1983. There was a civilian regime, and the military came back. And ultimately, it led to the 1999 Constitution, which is holding the country by the jugular vein. From the moment that state of emergency, not even the state of emergency, from the moment that Emergency Act was passed by the parliament, Nigeria entered into crisis that Nigeria has not been able to come out from. It has not been able to extricate itself up till today. But in everything that happened, who benefited from it? Did Nigeria benefit from it? No. Did the people of Nigeria benefit from it? No. For whose benefit? It was for the benefit of the British government. It was for the benefit of the British government. Remember instrument number 1652 of 1960, issued by Queen in Council and published in England and in Nigeria. That was what the state, the Emergency Act, was based upon. There is an international conspiracy against Nigeria. And it is very sad that those who are ruling the government today seem not to realize that they are repeating history, an ugly history that Nigeria is yet to resolve. We can only pray that the aftermath of what was done on 18th of March 2025 will not be as ugly as the aftermath of what was done in 1962, when the state of emergency was announced in the Southwest. From that moment, crisis upon crisis bedeviled Nigeria. We are at a point in which we are looking forward to a new Nigeria. And it is like the closer it gets, the more heightened the crisis. A public commentator, looking at what was done on Tuesday, described it as state capture. That some people have captured the state. And which state? Rivers State. That there was a state capture of Rivers State. They are right to an extent. What they may not fully realize is that it is not only Rivers State that was captured. It is the entire Nigeria that was captured. You see, there are some states in Nigeria that before you can win election convincingly, you should win in those states. And those states include Lagos State, Kano State, Rivers State. Rivers is very strategic because of its oil resources and because of the volume of its votes in the South-South. So whoever controls Rivers State can conveniently say he controls the South-South. There is an age-long, let's put it an age-long, within the context of our history as a country. The history of Nigeria is not that long. We're just 64 years old as a country, compared with countries that are hundreds of years old, some thousands of years old. But within that context, we can still say an age-long conspiracy to capture the entire state of Nigeria. Because a group, an international conspiracy, a group of international conspirators have determined that Africa should become an Islamic continent. And for that to happen, 7 countries in Africa must primarily be Islamized. And those 7 countries are Nigeria, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Congo, Malawi, South Africa. 7. That those 7 countries should primarily be Islamized. Of those 7 countries, the critical one, that once you get it, you got all the rest, is Nigeria. And for you to get Nigeria, you must get some states. Lagos, you must get Lagos. You must be in control of Kano. You must be in control of rivers. So we need to understand the depth of that state of emergency. And you need to understand what the public analysts who says it is a state capture, what they are saying. They also may not even realize the depth of what they are saying. That a state has been captured. That state may not just be River State. It may be referring to the entire country. And the consequences, particularly for the church, the consequences will be disastrous. It is an irony that some of those who are canvassing support for what was done are Christians. Some of those who are writing, some of those who are speaking, justifying what was done, they are Christians. We will refer to certain actions that were taken by those who want to turn Africa into an Islamic continent. We mentioned, it's in the public domain, that there was a strategy meeting of OIC in 1983. After that 1983 meeting, a letter was written to a former head of state of Nigeria. And he was given some curious instructions. Some instructions about Nigeria. That number one of those instructions, we just mentioned a few of those instructions, that he should ban all forms of worship by Christians in Nigeria. That number 2, he should Islamize all universities, all colleges, and the court of law in the Federal Islamic Sultanate of Nigeria. They changed the name of the country from Federal Republic of Nigeria to Federal Islamic Sultanate of Nigeria. This letter was in 1990. A year after the Abuja Declarations Conference in 1989. The communique of the Abuja Declarations is in the public domain. In that communique, it was stated, eradicate in all forms and ramifications all non-Muslim religions. Such religions shall include Christianity. That was in 1989 at the Abuja conference of the Islam in Africa Organization, IAO. That is the body that organized that conference. It is that same body, IAO, that wrote the letter of 1990 in which the name of Nigeria was presented as Federal Islamic Sultanate of Nigeria. And then there should be a one-party state. There were two political parties as of that time, because both SDP and NRC, you will remember, those who are old enough at that time, will remember that the government established two political parties, National Republican Convention, NRC, and Social Democratic Party, SDP, in 1989. And the letter that came in 1990 stated that the NRC, the National Republican Convention, should transmute into an Islamic party. And it will be the only political party in Nigeria that will produce the president, the governors, and the legislators. And SDP should be phased out. That it was a party of infidels. Looking back at the content of that letter, and looking back at what President Babangida did in 1993, when he annulled the June 12 election, which is still a crisis till today, one can conclude that Abiola's election was annulled because it was SDP that won and not NRC. Because NRC was the party that was chosen to be the only Islamic party that will govern Nigeria. So when NRC did not win, instead of handing the party the power over to SDP, the election was annulled. The interesting thing also is that somebody might want to say, but SDP floated a Muslim ticket. A Muslim ticket of MKO Abiola from the southwest and Babagana Kingibe from the northeast, from Kanuri. It was a Yoruba Kanuri ticket. Yes. Because to the power brokers in Nigeria, infidel does not only refer to a non-Muslim. It also refers to a non-Fulani. If you listen to the news recently, particularly when the Fulanis were trying to bring Sharia into Nigeria, and Yoruba Muslims kicked, and they said no, they don't want it. One of the statements that was made is that Yoruba Muslims are not real Muslims. That they are not real Muslims. They are also considered as infidels within the context of power play in Nigeria. Within the context of power play in Nigeria, those who are considered the pure Muslims are those ones who are exercising the power in Nigeria. So it was easy for the election of June 12, which floated a Muslim ticket of Abiola and Kingibe, to be annulled. Looking back, if it was NRC of Bashir Tofa that won, that election might not have been annulled. Today, Nigeria has another Muslim ticket. This one managed to get into power. It is still the same Yoruba Kanuri ticket. It excludes the power brokers. And it is this ticket, this Yoruba Kanuri ticket, that has now reenacted the state of emergency that plunged Nigeria into darkness from 1962, when it was introduced. Because one thing is clear: those who guided the parliament, those who led the parliament in 1961 to pass Emergency Act as the first bill that was approved by the Nigerian parliament, they are still around. And they are still pulling strings. And there could be the possibility that even those who took the action of the state of emergency in Rivers might not realize that they are being used for state capture. The purpose, the overriding purpose, is to make sure that Nigeria is hijacked. Democracy is truncated. Of course, the state of emergency is an assault on democracy. And that is the general consensus in the public domain. It is an assault on democracy. It is weakening democracy. It is not a measure that was taken to strengthen democracy in Nigeria. Now, if democracy goes, freedom of choice goes, freedom of worship goes. If the state is captured, those who are waiting to capture it will not allow Christianity to operate. Already, this same government has closed down the Aso Villa Chapel. The Aso Villa Chapel was constructed in the year 2000. And for 23 years, it has been observing regular Sunday worship until the Muslim ticket came into power. And for almost 2 years now, there has not been Sunday service at the chapel in the villa. But the mosques are meeting regularly. And there are about 4 mosques. 4. There are other lesser ones, but 4 big, sizable mosques in the villa. The only chapel has been suspended for now. And after that action comes a state capture of Rivers State. The bottom line of what we are saying right now is that Christians seek not yet repose. Because it is not just Rivers State that is at stake. It is not just Rivers State that is under assault. It is the church. It is the entire country. Therefore, Christians need to intensify intercession for Nigeria, for divine intervention. Christians need to pray, and Christians need to talk to their leaders to make matters worse. Instead of proactive response from Christian leaders in this generation, we are seeing too much of lukewarmness. We are seeing signs of compromise. When these things happen, even the church leaders who think they are the friends of those in power, they will discover that they are no friends. They will discover that they are also under threat. They are also in danger. If they think that they will escape, they will not. If they think their churches will be spared, it will not be spared. If they think their lives will be spared, it will not be spared. Because if those who want to capture Nigeria succeed, whatever is Christian and whatever is able to resist them in the name of Christianity, they will make sure they remove it out of the way, so that there will be no opposition. So the church leaders who are fraternizing with Islam, who are fraternizing with Islamists, who are fraternizing with the Muslim ticket, they better think twice and retrace their steps and go and strengthen the church and go and strengthen democracy and warn the members of their congregations not to speak in favor of any assault on the democracy in Nigeria. There is still time to prevent calamity from breaking out. The first state of emergency plunged Nigeria, the chain of events that followed it, plunged Nigeria into a civil war. The pain of that civil war has not healed up till today. The wound has not healed up till today. It is still a major stumbling block to the unity of Nigeria up till today. We have not come out of that. Another one has been done. May the Lord have mercy upon us in this country. And may the Lord grant us grace that the indigenous ethnic nationalities will stop making compromises. Because the people who are doing this cannot do it without the support of the leaders of the indigenous ethnic nationalities. Those who are manipulating Nigeria, they are very few, but their foot soldiers are many. And the foot soldiers are our traditional rulers, our political leaders, our religious leaders. Those three groups should wake up and retrace their step. There is an agenda for Nigeria. It is not a good agenda. Everything that is going on in Nigeria is being manipulated to achieve that agenda. Only God can frustrate it. At the point that it has reached now, only God can stop it. Therefore, we will encourage Nigerian Christians intensify prayers. And number 2, start engaging church leaders. If you can get to traditional rulers, engage the traditional rulers, that you are also under threat. Because if that agenda should succeed, you will be replaced by an emir in your domain. Does not matter how large your domain is, an emir will replace you, you will be dethroned. Any traditional ruler that is supporting what is going on now, you are under threat. Any church leader that is supporting, you are under threat. Any politician that is supporting it, you are under threat. Look at Hausa land, in which this agenda has gone a long way. The Usman Dan Fodio agenda. Hausa people, they really produce governors. In fact, somebody produced a list of governors in Nigeria recently and said that in Hausa land, there are 9 governors. And the person said 9 of them are Fulani. No, it's not correct. 8 of them are Fulani. 1 is Hausa man. The governor of Zamfara is pure Hausa. The one in Zamfara is Hausa man. All the others are Fulani in Hausa land. So if you think you are in the southeast, you are in the southwest, you are in the south-south, you are in the middle belt, you will discover as a politician, you can't hold office again. It is time to wake up. It is time to wake up. It is time to talk to ourselves, indigenous ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, Christians and Muslims. It is time to wake up. Don't hand Nigeria over to international conspirators who want to change the destiny and the direction of this country. Don't hand it over. It is time to retrace the steps. It is time to wake up. May God grant us grace to understand. May God grant us grace to take corrective measures. We still have time. God bless you. Let us pray.